Same cast, same shirt. If you have not guessed, I am currently in Austin, Texas to visit the folks and give up my manual labor skills. So, in this episode, I am joined by Guy Razy. Of course, this is pre-recorded with the glorious beard of yesteryear that I decided to shave because I started to look more homeless than I wanted to. The right level of homelessness is important whenever you're involved in strength sports, it seems. But decided that I'm going to be gaining plenty strength by all the food I'm going to eat in Austin. So, yeah, hopefully I'll come back with another chin. But anyway, this episode I'm joined by Guy Razy. We go over basically what muscles are responsible for what when it comes to the anatomy. We do discuss. We go into neck training. We go into lats. We go into chest. We go into shoulder. We go into biceps. And the rest will follow in a follow-up video that I'm going to be shooting with Guy Razy. I really appreciate him taking the time to record this with me. And as always, this is, in my opinion, actually a pretty cool nerdy episode for those of you involved wanting more of the science on this channel. So, and subscribe if you can. If you can't, well, sign up for YouTube. It's free. It'll be fine. And yeah, enjoy the show. Welcome to another hatecast. Some things have changed. I've cleaned off my table back there, and Guy's in a new place. So,
Definitely.
There were 3 questions before we get into it, and if you guys have not listened to the first episode with Guy, I highly suggest that. His credentials are amazing, and he's a physio, and he owns his own business, and he's a really cool guy to have on here. So, there's 3 questions that are you okay with answering before we actually get started?
Sure, yeah.
Because whenever I had teased that we were going to do a Q&A, which we still eventually might do, but things kind of fell into whatever they do. I'm setting my timer, actually, because I am long-winded as shit. So, we got some questions in, and they were specifically for you. So
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and ask these questions. You can answer them, elaborate on them, or whatever.
Okay.
What made you get into physio?
We talked a little bit about this, I think, in the last one. I was working as a trainer, as a kinesiologist, and I'd worked on movies, and I'd worked with the Canadian Navy, and I'd worked with the RCMP, which is like our national police force here. And it's contract work. So when you've got a 4-month contract, a 6-month contract, life is great. You're making a ton of money. Contract ends, and then you're like at the local gym training mummies and daddies, trying to convince them that, oh, hey, train with me. I used to work with the Navy, blah, 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 until the next contract comes up. And honestly, I did not go into physiotherapy with the best of intentions. I wanted a steady paycheck. Later I found out, I'm actually talented at this, and I can actually really help people, and, happy fuzzy feelings and all that stuff, but it did not start off like that.
Yeah. The second question actually has to do with your diet specifically. So, they saw your numbers on the episode, which, by the way, can you go ahead and say those for people who are unaware?
At 198, I am squatting 635. I am benching 365, and my best deadlift is 555. That should be going up soon, we hope.
That's always the hopes. Is there any, because Jamie Lewis has actually has done his little, he loves cheesecake. He feels like he's stronger whenever he includes cheesecake into his diet. For whatever reason, it may be bro science or whatever. Is there anything that you see food-wise that acutely perfects your performance and over time has increased your performance, if there's something like that?
Acutely would be black coffee and Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Will be the acute. But chronically, I am a big believer in organ meats, and I eat probably 8 to 10 cups of vegetables a day.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's kind of weird because you and I are kind of on the same page on that one. I love organ meats, but if I do not have any available, actually, let me rephrase that. I'm wanting to try more organ meats. Like, you know, in a household that I was growing up in, my mother is very southern, and she grew up in Arkansas. Ironically, I ended up moving somewhere near there where she grew up, and her mother used to like eat cow tongue every day, right? And that was just something she did. Cow tongue, cow brains was just something you know, she did. More recently, after talking with Desi and hearing about your little adventure into what was it, Pakistani food or yeah. That brain curry really seemed to resonate with me because I feel like if you're gonna go organ meat, eating it in like a soup is more palatable for a lot of people. So
yes,
definitely on that train as well. The health benefits are numerous. I mean, eating, it's kind of funny because the brain's made of fat, and then like you eat brain, and it's good for your brain. It's like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird. That's creepy.
yeah.
But I want to try some. Huh?
It has a lot of vitamin A, a lot of vitamin D, a lot of vitamin K. It's got a decent amount of omega-3 fatty acids if the animal was wild or ate a decent diet. Like, tons of benefits when you do this.
Yeah. And us here on this channel are a big fan of bone broth, both homemade and otherwise. Same thing with vegetables. I noticed that when I drop all of the veggies and fruits, I'm a big fruit guy too, just because I like the way they taste. Like, I'm a sugar fiend. Right before this podcast, I ate like a 5-cup mixing bowl of cereal, breakfast cereal, because of reasons.
Okay.
I'm not gonna try and justify it. It's tasty, but with, you know, some cocoa powder and stuff like that in it. But, you know, it's, if I remove vegetables from my diet, I do see some sort of performance decrease, and I'm not quite sure if that's cognitive performance decrease or if that's physical. But I do. Long story short, it may be placebo, but I do feel a performance detriment. So. But the third question is, when you got into powerlifting, right?
Yeah.
How much of a different mindset was it like a 180 from going from fencing into powerlifting?
It wasn't a 180 because when you're already on a national team, you're already very aggressive, you're already very motivated, you already got all of that mental work done. You don't get to a national team without having that stuff.
Right.
What I would say the difference in powerlifting, really getting your head around, is you're not, you know, first to 10 points or first to 15 points depending on the competition. Yeah. You get 8 seconds and you get 1 lift.
Yeah. Okay. So it was kind of along the same lines of what you were already doing, just different specificity.
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of that competitor mindset.
That stuff translates.
Yeah. And there is a fourth question, but I'll ask you off air because I think it might involve someone trying to get free medical advice, which is not something we do. We are not doctors. Well, I'm not a doctor, but also, like, you know, go-to guy. So, I think that leads us into the topic of the day, which, let me pull up my cheat sheet because you are very much more well-versed in this than I am. Okay.
I made a cheat sheet for this episode.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Perfect, because I think, so just for those of you who are unaware, who are tuning in, because, by the way, newsflash, we're going to have to describe things a lot better because this will probably be on SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, we're trying to push on there. So for our listening audiences only, we will be descriptive as possible and not showing you our elbow to demonstrate things because your ears don't have eyes. I don't know why I needed to say that. Moving on. So the first thing we're going to cover, and this one might be a little bit controversial because the old school guys actually train this all the time. There are machines devoted to this. Okay?
What?
The neck.
Yes.
So I have my opinions about it, but let's go ahead and go over what what muscles people think of when they think neck training and how the neck works when it comes to.
Typically, people train the extensors and the erectors, which are part of them, and the upper traps way too much. And the neck is a huge, complex piece designed to protect the cervical spine and the windpipe. Here's where people got to remember some of the old-timer stuff. And I'm talking about, when people were doing bench press on their neck.
Yeah.
Like in full bridge. If your neck is in correct alignment, it can handle hundreds of pounds. No problem. If it's in correct alignment.
Right.
That's what people seem to forget.
So would the efficient way... So basically the theme of what you've been telling me is people really do have a problem of, in their everyday life, somehow getting something out of whack, right? That's why you see so many patients. That's why there's a practice. That's why people come to you and end up on your table. Sometimes it's even due to something they did to themselves or for themselves.
Right.
Specifically, injuries via car wrecks or injuries via weightlifting, what have you. Long story short, everybody has at least something out of whack, right?
Yes.
So it wouldn't be out of the ordinary. It's pretty common to have your neck kind of off a little bit because even the way I'm sitting, I'm like leaning to one side doing this, you would probably cringe if you saw me in every day. But it's I have to agree with that there. I mean, I also think that the old school guys also had this fascination with gigantic necks because there were a couple of neck mass monsters. I know that seems kind of weird, but dudes with just gigantic necks from powerlifting and all that stuff. Now, how would you go about training that specifically?
With the underlying assumption that alignment is taken care of.
Right.
I would start off with back bridges and front bridges.
Right.
Basic wrestling work, basic football work. And once that was really solid and good and they could start bridging with more than 2 plates, then we would get the harness, the old school harness, and just start working all the different angles.
Yeah. There's actually this gym here that has one of the old school 1970s, 80s neck machines. I don't know if you've ever seen one. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah? Where you put your chin in it and I think most of the time the people that, like my opinions are when it comes to neck training is you have a very specific use case for specifically targeting the neck. Because if you're deadlifting, if you're doing pull-ups, it's getting stimulated to some degree, right? I know some people see the phenomenon happen. Like you have people deadlifting a lot of weight, all of a sudden their neck, blows up, I personally, my opinion is I don't see any need for the average lifter to train neck. It's one of those like non-issue things that people want to like, like what are your opinions on like the average lifter, like the guy who'd be listening to this podcast? Like,
if you're not in combat sport, it's not worth the risk. That's really where I would sound. If you're not wrestling, if you're not doing jiu-jitsu, if you're not boxing, if you're not in football or rugby, why are you beating up the thing that keeps your windpipe and your cervical spine functional?
Right. Yeah. See, I have the same issue. You know, jiu-jitsu is interesting because it's picking up in such popularity right now that I think that's something that people need to hear. Now, why specifically for something like jiu-jitsu? Because I know a lot of people who listen to this podcast also participate in Brazilian jiu-jitsu and the like. So,
well, because you're going to need network while you're grinding it out. I mean, guys are going to go after guillotines and all the different chokes. Thicker neck makes it more comfortable, more possible for you. I mean, and also just when you are doing the actual grappling, it's very similar to wrestling in terms of technically what you're doing. Thicker neck, you're going to be able to tolerate more while you're bridging, moving around.
right. See, this is why I like having you on. I'm sitting over here, stupid bodybuilder. You're sitting over here bringing up things that actually matter. But yeah, I like that. So I think that pretty much wraps that up. Do you have anything else to add when it comes to neck training at all?
The only thing I would strongly discourage is a lot of forward motion without a lot of backward motion. We already spend so much time sitting and hunched and forward that we typically, in about 80-85% of cases that I see, need more extension work where you look up towards the ceiling versus flexion work where you look down towards the floor. And so if someone were to like, oh, I want to get really good at looking down towards the floor, I'd be like, I would double check that because there's 80% chance that you're wrong.
Or just pick up a smartphone. I mean, that'll get you really good real quick.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with that too. And some people, the way their biomechanics, just the way their body's aligned, actually tips them forward a little bit. That's something else too, because you have this bone formation that happens as you're developing, right? If you spend a lot of time sitting as a kid and stuff like that, you're going to be more inclined for pulling forward. That's why kids who aren't involved in sports. I don't want this to become like a PSA, like get your kids involved in sports, but get your kids involved in sports. Like it's healthy for them. But there are people that are just pulled forward just naturally. These are the guys with the excessive forward lean when they squat. These are the guys with the good morning squat or whatever. These are the guys, and that can be fixed, but maybe that's one of the ways too. Huh?
Not to push the PSA element of it too much, but this is actually really important. We just got a new report on osteoporosis here.
Yep.
So typically osteoporosis is a disease of women over the age of 60. That's traditionally how we thought about it in the medical system. 15% of university-aged women are now osteoporotic.
Now, is that like how long, like, what was the study length of that, or what was the, like...
That was, they just did the triple bone scan, just to see what their bone density was.
So it's like kids today in college.
It was published in 2014, I believe. University of Arkansas, actually.
Something good came out here. But other than just a Sioux football team, Razorbacks, whatever. But yeah, I think that is kind of an issue for the newer generation that they really have to watch out for.
Yeah, because if you're 19 and you've never moved, then when your bone mass peaks when you're 30, you're going to have nothing.
Yeah. And I know it's not a problem for most of the people who watch this podcast, or maybe it is. The thing about it, too, is when it comes to physical activity being introduced or being taken away, right? Because we think about introducing physical activity, but we don't think about the physical activity that was taken away out of our culture from, most recent years. Like, within the past 30 years, when was the last time you truly knew somebody who had like a really hard physical labor job that wasn't like a logger, construction, something like that, right? Most jobs are desk jobs. And you have a large percentage of people that are having diseases that should be seen in people over the age of 50 that are like 20, like heart disease, even some liver issues, which I've got to do some more research on. I think, I don't know. But I was just reading like a little snippet off of a website that I follow, and they were going over the very same issues. So it's a real problem for the recent generation. It's a real problem. So
it's only going to get worse.
Not if they listen to this podcast. But let's move on to probably one of your most worked on muscle groups, shoulders.
Yeah.
So we'll go one by one of the major parts of it, and then we'll kind of see how they can program a routine in order to take advantage of all the information. So anterior delt. That is the front of the shoulder. For those of you watching on YouTube, I am trying to point to my non-existent shoulder here because I have small shoulders. So you go ahead and talk a little bit about that. What is the function of the anterior delt?
So that muscle, interesting. That was not on my cheat sheet, but I can do it.
Throwing curveballs at you, man.
That it's to help raise your arm to 9 degrees from when it's at the side of your body. So it brings it up to about eye level, plus or minus.
Okay. So how would somebody go about efficiently? Now, I have my own opinions on this, and this might be a little controversial, but how would somebody go about training that specifically or targeting, or do you think isolation work is necessary? That's a better question.
It depends on what you're training for. If you're training for function, you should be spending 89% of doing function. If you're training for size, then that's a different issue. So
right.
By bodybuilders, powerlifters, strongmen, all train differently.
Right. Let's just talk about the average gym goer, right? And then we can kind of.
If you want to get bigger at your delts, so if you just want to get bigger anterior delts, seated military press, seated incline press, that'll do it.
Okay.
That'll be the most muscle recruitment from that area.
I'm also not a fan of front raises just because they open you up to a lot of issues.
That's why I can't recommend them.
Yeah. So you and I are in the same agreement. Sometimes even for the more beginner guys, pressing something overhead, yes, is healthy. I would rather see you do a barbell overhead press and a bench press for your anterior delts than throw in a bunch of shoulder work, right?
Right.
Because pressing something overhead we do know is important for general health. We do know that is a very functional thing to do, right?
So this is where we got to be careful. Overhead pressing is awesome, recruits a ton of muscle. It's great. The problem is there are 3 to 6 shoulder types, depending on which classification system you use. Not everyone can press overhead heavy, just the way the shoulders are built.
Yeah.
So unless you're going to get an x-ray to find out which subtype you are, you want to go up to about body weight, and that should be fine. When you start to get above body weight, that's when most people's shoulders start to get really wrecked. That's because their shoulders just aren't built for it.
Right. Well, heavy is relative, too.
Yes.
think, would you say that the actual, your central nervous system is going to hold you back a little bit? The very weight that you're pressing, like let's just say, for example, somebody's 150 and their bench, or they're overhead pressing 135, for an example. I'm not saying that happens, but it happens. For example, that was the case. There would be some warning signs that you need to listen to, and that may be a whole nother episode in and of itself, is what the warning signs you should look for. But we might tack that on to the shoulder explanation, because I think that you deal with a lot of shoulder issues. You know,
Yes.
physios, everyone that I've talked to has said I've either asked them or they've told me in some way that one of the lower back and shoulder.
Yep. Those are the
That's
two big
it.
ones.
Yeah. So, military press should take care of that.
Yes.
We're in agreement on that. So, and that could be dumbbells, that could be barbells, that could be Smith machine.
Right.
There's a lot of back and forth which one is better, but they all seem to do pretty much, they're all pretty comparable in stimulation of muscle groups.
Yes.
So, I would say dealer's choice, whatever works for you. I personally have been experimenting with single arm Smith machine shoulder press, right?
Okay.
I know that seems kind of weird, but it allows me for a neutral grip. It allows me to really take the movement slow and concentrate and do all the pump stuff that bodybuilders do because it's a beauty pageant. And, kind of concentrate on the movement while at the same time allowing me to push more weight than I probably should free weight wise. So, that would be a variation that you can throw in there. Any favorite variations of yours?
For me, it's standing dumbbell press.
Standing dumbbell press. Now, do you do that one at a time, or do you do that with both dumbbells?
Both at the same time, but because of the instability, it's going to limit how much weight I can move.
Right, right. See, I'm a fan of those too. Now, do you do it beltless, or do you do it with a belt?
I've always done beltless. I didn't even consider doing it with a belt.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I mean, I just saw some guy do them with a belt on, and I was interested to know why he was trying to push that much weight. So, that's all.
Okay.
You know, does that make sense to you? I mean, intraabdominal pressure, sure, but
Yeah, but I mean, like, that's what I was going to say. It's going to give you a little bit extra stability there, but on a press, it shouldn't make that much of an issue.
yeah, yeah. And for people, the added benefit of something like a Smith machine or a dumbbell is for people who have difficulty with the mind-muscle connection in their shoulders, which is a lot of people.
Mhm.
For whatever reason, they end up letting their triceps take over, or their other means of getting the weight up, like the push press, turning it into a push press or something like that. You can really concentrate on the gnarly squeeze that's going to recruit, in my opinion, the sickest pump known to man. I'm not going to say muscle fibers, relax.
Good.
um, but I think that pretty well covers that. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
What is the next one on your cheat sheet so that we can kind of go through that one? We'll let you choose this time.
So I did prep mid delt because I figured we would go
Oh,
with that.
crap.
What?
No, you're right. There's 3 parts. There's 3
Yeah.
parts, man. Okay. No, mid delts. Let's do lateral delts.
Okay.
Man, you're quick.
So band face pulls are what have demonstrated the highest recruitment for that.
Yeah. So taking a band, putting it up at an anchor point, and that's probably copyrighted. You shouldn't play that. Turn your notifications off. Having to get after my wife because it's on YouTube.
They're usually off.
Okay. The stupid Team 4-star where Vegeta goes, "I'm gonna rock you like a hurricane," and then it plays the copyrighted music that I can't imitate because YouTube apocalypse. Now, so banded face pulls is where you set up somewhere. Do you like high face pulls, or do you like doing them low?
I would do as high as you can tolerate, actually.
Okay, so set it up on a high anchor point, and then literally pull them to your face and apart, right?
Yeah.
Because the apart motion is where most people tend to screw up a little bit, tend to be janky. So you really do need to concentrate on separating them more than just your face.
To work for my patients, I tell them, imagine you're tying a blindfold.
Right.
And that really gets them to pull it all the way open, because you've got to get it behind your head.
That's a good cue. I like that cue. Hey, I might have just picked something up from you. That's pretty cool. I like doing that, but I like it with a cable. Now, that may just be the bodybuilder in me, or just because I know that a lot of gyms, like the one gym, I have a couple gyms that I go to, like in Austin, where they just don't have bands because people steal them. It's like, okay, I'll just do a cable. But no,
Same thing.
Huh?
It's going to be 90% the same thing anyways.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I mean, for size, I think the loading scheme of the cables is a tad bit better. But with the bands, if you want some killer lateral delts, you do some band face pulls, pull aparts, whatever they're called. They have many names. That'll get you a set of killer. Now, where are you at on upright rows? Because this is where the strength community is kind of split.
Again, that depends on the type of shoulder you have. So my general advice is, if your sport doesn't require it, unless you know that your shoulder can tolerate it, don't go heavy.
Yeah. All right, well, what about light upright rows? Because there's some people in the industry that just say, if you do an upright row, you're going to die. It's like getting hit by a car. Your shoulder's never going to be the same again. You know, all that stuff. Do you see any truth in that?
If there's an underlying shoulder problem and you're lacking end range internal rotation, and I know I just said a whole bunch of big words, but if you can't bring your hand all the way down so that your elbow's in line with your shoulder and your hand is in line or behind your body, if you can't do that motion, don't upright row.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that a lot of people, when they're doing stuff like upright rows, which, by the way, if you need to absolutely do upright rows because you refuse to not do any upright rows because reasons, there's a lot of people like that in the fitness industry. I would suggest doing them on a cable because it's easier, and I know I've said cable like 700 times, but we'll get into the compound stuff here in a bit, I'm sure. But do it on a cable. I'm not actually a fan of barbell upright rows because most people do them incorrectly. Like, if I had to give a general recommendation, I would more likely be okay for somebody to do them. Even band upright rows is good too. The dumbbells is a little wacky. I never liked that movement myself.
Well, it's going to be hard to control it.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we've covered that one. So now we go on the back. See, we go to posterior deltoid. This one's a little interesting because there's a bunch of things that work well, right?
Yeah.
Where are you at on rear delts?
So I'm in prone reverse flies.
Prone reverse flies?
Yeah.
I can't argue with you there. That's what I do. Every once in a while, I'll throw in a rear delt row, which is something like long forgotten. But it's just pulling. It's setting up at a cable. I know I said it again, but cable machine, and then or using a barbell and pulling high, right?
Yeah.
Although I will say, if you lack the range of motion to do something like an upright row, you probably want to stay away from rear delt rows because it falls with some of the same problems, you know.
Yeah.
Also, let's backtrack here. What is I wanted to go over the function of the lateral delt, so people understand why.
It's an assistant muscle for bringing the arm from the side of your body up to 70, 80 degrees, so just below shoulder height. But it's an assistant. It's not the primary mover. and the rear delt is bringing the shoulder down from eye level with control or pushing it behind you.
Right, right. So, basically everyone should ski, is what you're saying.
Move to Canada and learn how to ski. It'll be great.
I know, especially where you're at, just mountains, mountains and woods everywhere.
Yep.
But so posterior delt, I'm in agreement with you. I think that's the most effective. I think rear delts can also be trained a lot too. Like rear delts can take a beating. They do not get enough direct work from something like rows to really. So you have this game that you're playing whenever you're getting really strong. Like you bench press one, for example, these are numbers, bear with me. So you're bench pressing 135, and then you move up to 225. Well, between 135 and 235, you have imbalances that happen, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to kind of, usually it's not too bad at that point. 315, well, now your shoulders are starting to pull forward because muscles are getting so strong. You have shortening of muscles, you have lengthening of muscles, you have more contractile tissue being created, and real delts is one of those things where towards the intermediate and advanced stages of lifting, you actually do need to isolate them to the point of making them a priority so that things don't hiccup. It's not necessarily because nobody's going there like, hey bro, nice rear delts. I saw them. Like, nice rear delts, although some guys have fantastic rear delts. But I'm not one of them yet. So, people, it's just a precautionary thing, and I'm always telling beginners, start the precautionary stuff now so that you're in the habit of doing it later so you don't have to end up on Guy's table. But so there's the entire shoulders except for one little muscle group, which is probably your favorite, right? Mm-hmm. Which we've already touched on, rotator cuff. So what is we've already went over this, but this is a new episode and a new day. So we've already been over the most effective way, in your opinion and in mine, to train the rotator cuff group of muscles, because it's not actually just one muscle; it's a group of muscles.
Yeah.
So go ahead and explain what the rotator cuff does, and we'll move on from there.
So there are four muscles in the rotator cuff: supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, and subscapularis. And they bring the shoulder up in front, up on the side. They do external rotation, which is when if your elbow were up at shoulder level, it's rotating your hand up towards your head, and it also is internal, so down towards the floor.
Right.
So
basically,
motions.
The entire range of motion that is involved with the different parts of the shoulder, the rotator cuff is also involved in, which is why it's important to take care of it. So how would one take care of it? I'll let you go ahead and answer that. You explained it once before, but we're going to go ahead and do that.
You froze.
Oh, sorry. We will be... No? Okay, we're good, I think. A little hiccup. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So we've already explained how to most efficiently train the rear delt. So if you can go into that again and explain it again, we'll fish for content real quick.
The rotator cuff or the rear delt?
Rotator cuff. Rotator cuff. Yeah.
So for the supraspinatus, you're going to lie on your side. The side that's up, you're going to put the elbow on the ribs, and you're going to turn the hand out so that it's in line with your body.
Right.
For the infraspinatus, you're going to do cable internal rotation, so elbow stays on the ribs, you've got a cable pulling away from you, and you stab yourself in the gut.
Yep.
Teres minor, you're going to hit with any row variation. And subscap, you've really got to pinch your shoulder blades together and down, and you'll get subscap.
And see, what I really like is scapular retraction exercises as well. So hang from a pull-up bar, do a couple of scapular retractions before any major movement. And a lot of times you will actually feel things fire a bit better, which is always nice, at least in my experience anyway. But yeah, that explains the shoulder. Like the shoulder, and I knew you were the right guy because the shoulder is a very large topic of debate in the strength, and a lot of people believe that you don't actually need to do any direct front delt work because bench works it pretty well. What are your opinions on that?
If you're not going to be a bodybuilder and you are going to do bench, then yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay. Yeah. I'd have to agree with you. And Jamie and I went into this also, and we also said that people are doing way too much front delt work, like doing too many front raises over and over and over again. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that covers it. We'll go into the next. Now we'll go into the next one on your cheat sheet. So let's go ahead and pull that up.
So, you want to know what was top on my list?
What?
Biceps.
Let's go ahead and get that one out of the way. I like that one. Yeah.
It is not going to be what you think.
I could imagine not. So you don't do 1,000 curls?
No.
Okay. Well, damn. There goes my plans.
The way to recruit the most bicep is a weighted wide grip pull-ups.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So all those people saying weighted chins and weighted pull-ups are the way to build a spectacular bicep was pretty close.
Yeah.
Well, good to know. Let's talk about what the bicep is responsible for first, before we get into the more intricacies. Because I know people are going to have like because two different heads, and then target those specifically because reasons. But let's go ahead and get into that.
So, bicep is a muscle on the front of the upper arm. Long head goes to the top of the shoulder, short head goes to the bottom of the shoulder, hence long and short, and they insert just below the elbow. They pull the forearm or your hand up towards your shoulder, so this is why we train them when we are doing curls. The other function they do is supination. Supination is when you bring the palm of your hand up towards the ceiling, as opposed to pronation, which is towards the floor.
Right.
And when you are doing a pull-up, inherently you are going to be getting some of that pronation, supination work in. Even though you're not moving, your muscles, your forearm has to go through that pathway a little bit. And that's why it's the best movement method.
Really? Also, what are your opinions on different grips, by the way? I was going to ask that. So
For
the pull-up specifically.
If you can do neutral, I would do neutral. But typically overhand is going to get you much farther.
Right. Let's take a little bit of a different approach because I know there's a portion of the audience that is either just starting out and they can't do a pull-up, or what's more likely the case, if it's anybody who is over 200 pounds or whatever, right? If they're just finding this podcast or whatever and they're untrained, curls or something like that, how would you go about isolating the bicep, for somebody who cannot do even your simple set of pull-ups? Because I know... Huh?
Easy bar curls.
Easy bar curls. Okay. So your progression would be work on lat pull-downs, something like that, right? Move, or if your gym is spectacular and they have an assisted pull-up machine, those actually work pretty well on training the movement patterns for a beginner, right?
What I've done when I get women who want to join the military or the police force and they need to learn how to do it and relatively quickly, I have them do the assisted machine to learn technique, and then what I have them do is I military press them up and they do an eccentric.
Right. Eccentrics have been in the game for a long time too. Specifically when it comes to pull-ups, I think that's kind of one of the oldest training tricks in the book. Like if you look at how long it's been done, because even Arnold back in the day would do like eccentric finishers on the end of his pull-up sets, because I mean he would put 45 pounds between his legs, but he'd be doing the slow controlled eccentrics. That you hear that, you see that face he's always making in those black and white photos is because they suck. But it's I even forgot about eccentrics. I'm dumb today.
I'm going to be back in 3 minutes. I'm going to be back in 3 minutes.
Okay, and we will have a little bit of a break. We'll be right back. And we're back. Oh my God. It's like you guys were gone and now you're back, and it's amazing, and you should subscribe. So let's go ahead and go into that. So easy bar curls are probably one of the most effective things. Would you say that more than one exercise is needed when it comes to the isolation of biceps for most people?
If you're not a bodybuilder, probably not.
Okay.
Bodybuilders are in a very unique situation because of they are judged primarily on their symmetry and on their size.
Right.
Most other athletes are not judged by this. They're judged by performance in other ways.
Right. And we might actually do an episode on bodybuilding if you guys are interested. He can make fun of me while I shave my chest or something. I don't know. It's going to be weird. But we'll go into what's the next one on your cheat sheet, man?
The lats.
The lats. Ooh. Speaking of pull-ups, let's go ahead and go into what the lats are responsible for real quick.
Oh, this is a long list.
I know because I know how much they're involved in everything, because I've actually strained a lat before, and it's bad. So, go ahead.
So they help with raising the shoulder up, bringing the shoulder out, extending the spine, bringing the shoulder blades in, bringing the shoulder blades down. I'm probably forgetting something even with all of that.
That's okay. I'm sure somebody will correct us in the comments.
Yeah, someone's got the anatomy book right in front of them, and they're going to be like, you forgot this!
That'd be fine. Like, no, you can tell you've been doing this a long time because you do this look, like, up in the air where you're, like, accessing information, like I do sometimes. It's like, well, yeah. Okay, so this is what they do. And it's like, yeah, you've been doing this a while, haven't you? You'll notice that. You'll notice that with people who go through medical textbooks and stuff, is you'll notice them kind of off in a Never Land for a minute, and you're like, oh, yeah, that. They're accessing that memory bank, which I appreciate, because I'm that way on stupid shit. Honestly, like the mating rituals of sharks. I embarrassed my third grade teacher from going into very graphic detail because she told me to elaborate. And that's what I did for like 30 minutes. I was talking about the mating habits of great white sharks. I'd just seen the movie Jaws.
In grade 3, that's awesome.
Huh?
In grade 3, that's awesome.
It was. She didn't see it that way. My parents were called.
Wow.
Well, I was going into graphic names of certain things and just like, and when like the female turns upside down and she falls asleep, and they're like, shark mating's a little rapey. Jaws got me too'd. So, the lats. Let's go into the lats. So what would be the most scientific way to kind of tackle lat training? Because I know you have to train two different functions at least, right? And that's
So,
pulling something down from overhead
right?
and then rows, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So, what would you do if you were going to train lats specifically?
So I would do wide grip weighted pull-ups, which we're already doing for the biceps anyways.
Right. Two birds, one stone. I like it.
Exactly. And then rack pulls.
Rack pulls.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm an absolute fan of rack pulls. I've been doing them for quite a while, probably too long.
Double overhand rack pulls. Think about it. Right? We said row it. It is a very short range row,
Right,
technically.
right. Yeah, no,
But it's gonna,
I agree. So, some people are actually a fan of the deadlift for back development. What is your opinion on that?
oh, if you're going to do it with proper form, 100% it's going to happen. You know, if you can do solid deadlifts, solid squats, solid pull-ups, your back's going to grow. Like that's not even a question at that point.
Right.
But get a coach, learn how to do it properly. Because 3 to 6 months of proper coaching is going to save you months on my table.
Yeah. See, we're back to the table.
Yep.
So I'm in agreement with you. Although I would say the bodybuilder in me wants to still do rows, just because I like tackling the rhomboids from that angle too. Specifically because I'm taller, so I'm
Yeah.
not going to be able to put a lot of pressure on my lower back because of certain things that comes with being taller. Like I'm always going to be leaning a little bit forward when I squat,
Yeah.
just because I was not built to do this. Although there's arguments for that because of Hathor, but hey.
Mhm.
By the way, have you seen the guy's girlfriend? It's like
Yes.
tiny. It's tiny. There's probably memes about her getting destroyed. But man, dude's just an absolute monster. Taller than me. So, like, if he doesn't have any excuses, by the way, with a half a paralyzed face, I don't need to have. He has Bell palsy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, which is temporary, but it doesn't seem to be going away for him. I'd be interested to see exactly what's going on with him. Like, I've always been interested in that, like, finding someone who's very good in strength sports and then seeing the either damage done or things that they do in order to prevent damage from being done. Because, I mean, we've all seen that picture of that guy with the bloody chest. Like,
Yeah.
he has that torn pec and everything like that. And he's sitting there, like, kind of looking at it smiling, But that's like 9 months of work later, is when that gets fixed. And I'd be interested to see that process. I'm sure you've seen that.
Oh, a few times now.
A few times.
Yeah.
But so that kind of covers lats, rack pulls, and wide grip pull downs, or I'm sorry, wide grip pull ups. Now,
Yeah.
for those of you who cannot do pull ups, the same thing applies.
Yes.
Also, there's multiple ways of skinning a cat. Just because we say these exercises is what we would prefer you do, that doesn't mean you have to do them. I like doing chin-ups. I like doing pull-ups. Sometimes I exchange chin-ups for pull-ups, right? They are interchangeable. That's part of what makes fitness great. Are there any exercises in the muscle groups so far that you would avoid, like the plague, for most people?
No, not particularly, but I do have an example of just what we're talking about.
Go ahead.
I have an imbalance right to left in my lat strength that used to be very severe. And I was always doing bilateral work, so I never realized it. And then one day, just for fun, I began to do unilateral work and found out that my left lat had about 40% more strength than my right lat, which
That's a
right
big...
Yeah.
How did you
Yeah.
go about tackling that?
So I began to really see which exercises I had the greatest strength difference on, and it was landmine floor press was the one where I like one side was doing 75 pounds and one side was doing like 20 pounds.
Okay.
And I just started like every single upper body workout, you knock out 2 or 3 sets of landmine floor press, which is like no one ever cares about that exercise, but it's hitting my lat in just the right way that I have somehow been missing for years.
Right. Right. You know, it's kind of cool when you find things like that too. You're like, there's almost this light bulb that goes off in your head, and it's like an aha moment where you're like, that's the issue, right?
Right.
Is that what keeps you interested in physio work, just as an aside?
Yeah. Just because there's at this point a lot of the cases you already know from the first 5 minutes what you're going to be doing, but every now and then you get this case where like this is a new puzzle and I don't know what the answer is, and you have to start digging and finding out and ask the patient this question, then you do this test, and then you say, oh, I want to try this thing. That's the great exciting part of medicine.
Yeah. And the even more exciting part is people are self-reporting things. So that makes it even a little difficulty level of things that kind of increase. But we'll go on to the next muscle group here because I think we've covered that pretty well. What is next on your cheat sheet?
So, I divided the pec into 3 groups.
Okay. Let's do pecs.
Yep.
Pecs get sex.
So
Things rhyme.
Pec, it does rhyme.
Yeah. Hey, rhymes get things that rhymes with rhyme. I don't know. Like it's catchy. Go ahead.
So for upper pec, dumbbell incline press is what gets the most recruitment.
Okay.
Mid pec, it's dumbbell bench, and for lower pec, it's weighted dips.
Weighted dips.
Yeah. For lower pecs, yep.
Okay. Now, as a physio, I kind of want to get your opinions on dips because you probably saw this one coming, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about the lower pecs first, and we'll kind of go over what they are involved in.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, if you want to go ahead and explain what all 3 do, and we can kind of run through that, like in conjunction with each other.
So the pecs as a whole help you bring your arm across your body and help you push away to some degree of the secondary group. And I should have brought my full anatomy book, man.
No, hey man, you're doing good. So I actually have a cheat sheet here, so I'm having to actually look this stuff up too. Like, it's kind of cool because I don't have anybody else that I can nerd out with this stuff about. So, but to your best ability, explain it though, because I can't seem to. The site's hard to navigate.
Now, the upper fibers are going to be mechanically recruited more when you're going away from the body, up, and the lower fibers when you're going away down. Now this is one thing that's very important for people to understand from a physiological point of view. Your brain doesn't know the difference between upper pec and lower pec, or upper abs and lower abs, or upper quad. Your brain just knows, I contract something here and I don't die.
That's kind of metal.
Well, because it tells the nerves, contract the muscles contract, and things happen. Now, we can mechanically target to hit upper or lower more, but this is where, like, I really, again, if you're not going to be in a physique type competition, when you're contracting upper pec, say 80%, lower pec is going to contract 40% anyways. It's just the way we're built.
So, dips specifically.
Yeah.
If someone was unable to do dips, because I know there's going to be one guy in the comment section that says, I can't do dips because of my shoulder. Well, first of all, fix your shoulder. Second of all, what would you suggest as an alternative to dips? Specifically because I know most people don't do them correctly, too. That seems to be a real problem.
You get a band, you put it across your shoulder blades, around your hands, and you push up.
Okay. So
it would essentially recruit the same pattern.
Really?
In terms of your pecs, yes.
That's kind of cool. I had never actually thought about doing it that way. So that's good for lower pecs?
Yeah.
Okay. And as for the upper, so a lot of people are more towards, see, you have, you suggested dumbbells, right? Is there any particular reason why dumbbells? Is that from a sports performance standpoint?
Yeah. That's for recruitment.
Recruitment. Okay.
What I'm talking about now is muscle recruitment.
Okay. So recruitment-wise, why is recruitment versus performance important?
So recruitment this is what will make the greatest number of muscle fibers contract doing this exercise. Right. That does not necessarily translate to performance.
Right.
You could be, just as an example, a sprinter. We know trap bar deadlift translates very well to sprinting, while straight bar deadlift does not.
Right. Right. The reason that I'm bringing that up is because I know somebody in the comment section is going to try and pick a fight with this argument, or maybe not. I could be paranoid, but because of incline barbell bench press, right? We've talked about that on this channel before, and you can build a better, probably a better upper chest by switching to dumbbells almost directly, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to, like, Ed prefers, he went into that in a previous hatecast, he prefers barbell bench press, right? Mm-hmm. Barbell incline barbell, because he's more worried. He likes performing well, right? So usually you'll find that more like basketball players, football players, stuff like that will end up choosing the barbell because they can move the most amount of weight and end up delivering the most amount of force when it comes to sports specific, when it comes to that end, right? And he's coming from a basketball background. So I thought that was kind of neat for us to clarify, right? Because I think it does need clarifications because it's not talked about enough.
It's true.
Sports specific and hypertrophy specific training is fundamentally they have things that are fundamentally in common, but they are fundamentally different.
Right.
And we will go on to now probably one of your least favorite, which is the tricep, because it also causes you some issues, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But not in the way people would think. So.
Well, this is going to be pretty easy. We've all done it. We've all seen everyone do it. It's going to be the rope tricep extension.
The what?
The rope tricep extension.
Rope pushdowns. Yep. Powerlifting favorite for years. Bodybuilder favorite for years. Everybody seems to be doing it, right?
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Now, what are the triceps responsible for?
So they are going to help bring the forearm down, or opening up the elbow, which you're going to use if you're doing a pressing motion.
Right. Now, when it comes to so rope push down is what, or rope pull down, right? The thing where you get the rope with the two handles, usually with a attachment in the center, and then you do extensions that way, usually pushing down. Are you a fan of overhead tricep work at all?
I mean, I do some as accessory work personally.
Right.
but it is not, again, it's not the best for recruitment, which is what I'm talking about here.
Okay.
But in terms of like how I personally feel, I like the overhead type extension where you're facing away from the stack and you're pushing through. I like how that feels better.
Right. Right. And I would say that for most people, it would benefit them to have some sort of tricep extension overhead as well. I know the rope push down, rope tricep extension, whatever you want to call it, has many different names. That seems to be the most efficient in recruitment wise, but I also feel like people train their triceps like that, and they kind of go and kind of specify in that, but when it comes to pressing things overhead, they find another weak link, right? And I feel that you can prevent the weak link from even happening if you were to incorporate some sort of overhead tricep movement, right? I am not personally a fan of skull crushers. I don't like them because I don't think that most people can do them correctly. Like, that seems to be a common trend with me. I'm sorry.
Barbell skull crushers, eh?
Huh?
You're talking about barbell skull crushers.
Yeah. Barbell, let me clarify. Barbell skull crushers. Yeah. The dumbbell stuff is fine. I will say that one of the most significant, Ryan Selly, not Ryan Skelly, but Ryan Selly, one of the things that helped him increase his bench, which he was a world, he was a bencher, a world record, I think, bencher. Very, very strong powerlifter, switch over to bodybuilding. Like, he was a jacked dude, right? Thing that helped him with his bench press record is he did these lying like tricep extensions from the floor. Like, he would do like skull crushes with dumbbells, right? And that seemed to really, really be efficient in building a lot of strength in his tricep for pressing movements, right? But yeah, I have to agree with you. I don't think there's a lot of variation needed with triceps.
No, if you're doing basic strength work, no.
Yeah. I think sometimes people can actually put too much emphasis on tricep training. Like, they can throw in way too many sets. Something else, too, is people mistake, and I'd like to go over this a little bit before we end this episode, because we're going to have to cover upper body part 2, just because of time's sake. We really nerded out here. But people experience tendonitis, and sometimes it's on the outside of the elbow, which is the bad kind, and then sometimes it's on the inside of the elbow, which is the I'm probably curling in with my forearm flexors or pulling in an incorrect way in some way, right?
Right.
So what are your thoughts on, like, generally tricep tendonitis? Like, when is it an issue, and when is it something that you can correct with intelligent programming?
Typically, it's an issue when people do more grip work, whether it's with a dumbbell or actual like grip work, like the grippers or a pinch grip or something. But you're gripping more than you can recover from at the tendon level, because the muscles recover much faster than the tendons.
Right.
And typically, the tendons don't recover fast enough for the rate that you're training at. And then there's going to be an inflammatory process.
Right.
That's going to start pushing things around. The elbow junction's a very tight space in the body. There's really not a ton of room to play around. If you catch it early, it's incredibly easy to treat. And we're talking about like 2 sessions. Like, if you are a competent physiotherapist, you can treat early onset elbow tendonitis in 2 sessions, maybe 3. You know? Right. But what a lot of the gym bros do is they'll come to me and they'll be like, I've had this burning elbow pain for 6 months. I'm like, okay, well, now it's not 2 sessions, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now we have to lay off anything you're doing with your hand. Now we've got to retrain the entire forearm complex. I mean, now it becomes an entire thing to make it heal.
Then people make it worse. People make it worse by just wearing wraps or whatever, and then training through the pain. Like, if I can just get through this set, it'll all be over. I can just get through this set, it'll be all over. And you know, we can go into why that is at a later date. I also would like to pick your brain on something that I don't think is talked at all, because I think it's one of those things that people end up getting that information from their coaches rather than from their like gym bros, which is there's actually a quite intelligent way to train grip and forearm, because sometimes that becomes a hiccup, right? Like, eventually, like, whenever there's this certain weight that everybody gets to, like, for some people it's like benching 315 for the first time. Some people it's been pulling, 500 for the first time. Sometimes it's squatting 315 for the first time. They get to this point and then something fails. Well, deadlifts and bench, sometimes it actually might have to do with very, very poorly utilized or trained forearms, which is something that's never talked about, Right. I haven't, at least from the podcast that I've listened to, like, nobody really hammers that really hard. But I think this will be upper body part 1, because I currently have to go, and it is way too dark out there for you to be driving in, sir. So, we are going to end the episode here. This has been a fantastic episode. I'd like to thank Guy, which we will get his name right this time. And go ahead and subscribe if you can, please. If you'd like to hear more of these, and if you'd like to any specifics when it comes to the really good intricacies, the really nerdy shit, go ahead and let us know in the comment section below. I'm sure a guy would love to answer those things with cheat sheets and his knowledge banks, and maybe even we can get him to show us around the physio office that he has there, which, by the way, killer. That is killer. That is absolutely a nice setup for a physio. Like, I'm seeing mats on the floor, I'm seeing bands, I'm seeing kettlebells behind you, I'm seeing those cardio blocks, I'm seeing treadmills, I'm seeing exercise balls, which, by the way, we can even go into the use of those, because I think those are underutilized by strength athletes too. The typically Swiss balls. So, but anyway, guys, thanks for watching. As always, we will see you in the next one. Like, subscribe, share this on your social media. This probably will be up on SoundCloud. I'm not sure if this one's going to air before Permaswole launches or after. So, yeah, that's coming, and I'll have in the next episode after this one or before this one, depending on how this works out, I will have Wayne Banks, the managing CEO of Chaos and Pain, and he is going to tell all the intricacies of how Chaos and Pain was built and how it became what it is today, and how cool that story is, because he did a lot of work and slept lost many hours of sleep over that. So, we will see you in the next one.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of the women. That is good. That is good.
Too many thoughts on my mind, I can't sleep at night, so I just keep writing. I don't need no help, I don't need opinions, so don't waste my time then. I just been living online, my city don't show me no love, and that's fine. Fuck local radio stations, I got more plays than all of these rappers combined. I'm going again, I've been going in, I'm fed up with so many things, I gotta just let it all out. I'm talking about the shit they've been talking about, telling me I should do this, telling me I should do that, telling me things about rap, talking the truth and that stab in my back, they will knock me off track. No, too many things have been building, been hard to deal with, I just been drinking. Remember my moves in the past, I'm wondering what was I thinking. Lately I'm living in fear, wondering what if the end is so near. All of this shit going on, the shootings are strong, one shot to the head and I'm gone. I'm losing control but I can't let it go, cause I'm trying to get more, and I've been in the moment, I've been in the zone, and I'm moving alone. I don't pick up the phone when my family call, I've been doing it wrong and I don't know what's happening. Trying to get what I just been imagining, getting close and I just been examining all of the fake shit the game has been packaged.
My lord pleases you, Kron, so grant me one request. Grant me revenge. If you do not listen, then the hell with you.
I come from a town where most of the people are so close-minded. They go into school and they work in a job, but they don't even like it. I won't be put in a box. Nobody telling me what I should rock. Nobody telling me what I should drop. Cause I do what I want and just know I don't stop. Recording till 4 in the morning, they snoring. I'm pouring my soul into every story. I'm writing, producing, I mix it, I master. I'm building my craft and I'm not looking back. I've been going doing things I wanna do when I want to. Everybody wanna get a win, but they not do. Everybody wanna copy you, but they not you. Everybody wanna be cool, but they not new. Whoa, look how I go. Gonna be a dentist, I still got the flow. Never gonna lose cause I'm still doing both. Never gonna lose cause I've been on the road. Come to your state and I'm killing the show. Know that I'm young and I still gotta grow. Know that I'm working the most, know I'm never gonna choke. And I'm looking back down on the people below.
I've been keeping real, I've been doing what I feel. I've been out here trying to kill every beat, I know I will. Everything I'm working on,